In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a basic recording session with multiple tracks recording all at once. This session that I'm going to do is in ProTools. I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to create a new session. Brings up this dialog box. I want to create a blank session. I record audio files as waves. I recorded a bit rate of 24-bit and a sample rate of 48K. The input-output settings you don't need to change as long as your system is already set up and has been recording fine with your interfaces already. I'm going to click OK. And we're going to name this. Let's call this How to Make a Session. Okay. All right, and this is the general layout that I go with. I like a nice big mix screen, mix window where I can see all of my faders. And then over here I have as small as I can get it as far as width-wise. This is going to list all of my tracks as well, and you'll be able to see the actual wave files after we've recorded them. I'm going to scroll down. There's a scroll bar over here so you can see the whole fader. First thing I do is I go up to Track, New, because I want to create new tracks to record the audio onto. And currently I'm set up with 16 channels of interface. I have two Focusrite 8-channel interfaces. The one I'm using on my drums is the Octopre, which has not only 8 channels of input, but 8 channels of compression. We'll get into that in another video. But I have that hooked up to my Scarlett, which is another Focusrite 8-channel interface, and then they're connected optically with an optical cable, and then my Scarlett is hooked up to the computer via USB. I'm running Windows 10. All right, all that's out of the way. So I want to create 16 tracks because I can record from 16 different microphones if I wanted to, all at one time right now. So anyway, we'll go through this dialog real quick. This is the number of tracks I want to create. So like I said, I want to create one for each channel that I have available to me right now. Do I want each of those tracks to be mono or stereo? Defaults to mono, and they're going to be mono because I have one microphone per channel. They're audio tracks. If you look in here, you can create other types of tracks, whether it's an auxiliary input, a master fader, MIDI track, or an instrument track. Again, we can get to all that later. For now, we just want to record some microphones on our drums. So we're sticking with audio track, and in this box, samples. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create, and here come our 16 channels. I'm only using 7 microphones to record the drums. You may ask, why did I pull in all 16? Is because if you notice on the I/O here, it gives me an input channel for every channel on my interface. This here, the ones that are numbered 1 through 8, that is the Scarlett that is attached directly to my computer, and then the ones that say ADAT, ADAT 1, 2, 3, etc., up to 8, those are the 8 channels that I have available to me on my Focusrite Octopre interface. And those are the ones that I'm going to be recording the drums on. They're set up over by my drum set, so I can manipulate the levels right there at the kit. And I like to always put my drum tracks. You can come up with your own flow. I like to set up my sessions to where I have the click all the way on the left, and then the next channels are drums and anything related to drums, an effects auxiliary channel, a group fader for just the drums. Any percussion I'll put in next to the drums, then I'll go bass guitar, then I'll go guitars, then I'll go any keys and whatnot, and then I go to vocals. So what I'm going to do is I clicked on my click track so that it would deselect all these channels. When I created them, all 16 tracks came in and they were grouped together as okay, so I clicked on the click track, that deselected them. But what I want to do is I want to group those again, but just the ones that are going to be over on my drum interface. So I know that starts with input ADAT 1, which is going to be down here on audio 9. So I'm going to left click, and I'm using 7 microphones. So that means I need 7 channels. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ADAT 7. I'm going to come down here, hold down the shift key, and left click on this track. And as you can see, all 7 of these tracks have lit up. Now what I'm going to do, I told you I like them next to my click track. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to left click and grab the Audio 9 channel. And now I'm going to drag it. And as I drag it, you can see that yellow cursor line is going to show me where it's going to move that group of tracks. I want it right here next to the click. There's the yellow line. Now I let go of the left click button, and there's my channels. I'm going to go ahead and click my click track again just so that I deselect all those others. All right, so we are getting good to go. We're almost ready to record. There's a few things I'll go over real quick with you here. None of this we're going to change right now. It should be set up to be ready to go if you've taken the time to set up your DAW. This is our automation line. This is telling me whether I should be reading instructions from the automation, writing to the automation, and we'll get into what some of those other terms, touch and latch, mean, or off. In this case, it's defaulting to read. There is no automation information in there, so absolutely nothing's going to happen to my faders, my pan knobs, anything like that, until I actually record some automated moves. Again, that's for a later time. All right, so if you notice here, we have these red indicator lights, and if I mouse over for a second, you'll see it says track record enable. Any channel that I want to use, any track that I want to record, I need to enable. And we're going to record these first 7 channels all at one time. Now, instead of going and selecting each one of these record enable buttons, let's undo that. I can go ahead and let's click this channel here, which is my A01. That's my first microphone on that interface. And it goes over here to A.7, which is the 7th microphone on my drum kit. That's the last one. I hold down Shift, I left click, and there we go again. The reason I'm doing this is some cool little shortcuts we can take advantage of. While I have multiple tracks selected, I can go up here and I want to record enable all those at the same time with just one click. So I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Alt key at the same time on my keyboard. Now, anything that I click, it's going to affect all of these channels that are highlighted here, that are selected. So I come up to my record enable on my first track, and when I hit enable, it enables all of them. You can see my red lights are lit up here, but they're flashing saying that it is ready to record. We're not recording yet, but it's ready to record. You can see all my faders turn to red as well. It's just an easy way for me to know which tracks are actually supposed to be capturing analog audio. While I have these grouped together, I want to go ahead and mute the channels as well. We don't want to hear the sound coming out of Pro Tools when we monitor. What we want to be hearing is what's coming directly out of the interface. And whatever interface you're set up with should have its own virtual mixer that you can go into and pan and set levels. And when you do it that way, there's zero latency. If you keep it here and you keep these unmuted, you're going to hear a slapback echo. To get the zero latency, which means zero delay from what's going into the system and what you're hearing, you have to use the mixer that came with your interface. In my case, I have the Focusrite mixer down here. And there we go. Okay, and so these are the controls I'm going to use if I need to monitor the signal that I'm recording. And that's probably good for another video as well, talking about how to set up the interface and whatnot. But anyway, you don't need to have this open. You really don't need to go in there as long as you haven't changed it from when you installed it. Everything should work the same. So I want to go ahead and mute all those channels. So I'm going to go ahead and select Shift and Alt. And when I hit M, that mutes the tracks so that the record enabled sound is going to come in. You're going to see the sound registering on these LED bars, but we're not going to hear how it sounds to Pro Tools right now. We'll still be hearing the sounds coming through our virtual mixer of our interface, but again, we've muted these tracks so that we don't hear any slapback echo, any delay, anything like that. Now we're looking really good. I could probably go ahead and start recording my session, but I want to do one other thing because up here we have A.1, A.2, 3, down here Audio 9, Audio 10. These are a little meaningless to me now, or when it comes time to mix the session. What I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and deselect these. okay, by clicking on another track. It doesn't have to be the click track. You just have to click on any unselected track. If you're in a situation where every single track was selected and now you're like, hey, I just want audio 10 selected. Why are all the... Hit Control and click. All right, and now you have audio 10 by itself. Click on audio 10 and all the grouping goes away. All right, I know based on the order of my inputs what microphones or what drums I have mic'd. So I'm going to start with the very first one here, E01. I'm going to double click on the default title for this track, which is audio 9. And when I double click, it brings me up a dialog. It already highlights the old name of the track, so I don't have to backspace or select it or delete anything like that. I can just start typing and it's going to take the new name. So we're going to say kick, because that is my kick drum microphone. And I can either hit enter and the box goes away, or I can click OK. Box goes away, change the name of track 1 to kick. All right, now that's more meaningful to me than an arbitrary number like audio 10. So let's go ahead and name the rest of our tracks. So again, I don't have to select them all, just pick one, audio 10. And I know that that channel has my snare. And you may see this comment box here. Maybe this is something, maybe you have multiple microphones on your snare. My setup right now for this demo, I'm just using one. But let's say you had multiple, and this is you're using an SM57 to record the top of the snare. Maybe just in the comments I'd put something simple, just like top mic dash SM57. You don't have a whole lot of space in here to type, but definitely enough if you need to just make some standout notes that you need to remember. All right, so there's my snare. Now let's go here to the next one. Double click. Now instead of having to go in, type the name, click OK, double click on the next channel, there's a way easier way of doing this. All right, we have kick snare. All right, so audio 11 is going to be Tom 1. Now, instead of hitting enter or OK, I'm going to come here and I'm just going to hit next. And it's going to take me to the very next track in the screen. All right, there's Tom 1. Now we're going to put in Tom 2. Click next. Floor Tom. Click next. Then I have my overheads. And the first overhead I have is my overhead that's over the hi-hat. So I say OH-hat and hit next. And then I have overhead ride, because that overhead microphone is on the ride side of my kit. Now I can either simply hit enter, and there we go. So now I'm looking really good. I have my tracks record enabled. I can see that by the flashing red. I have red faders. My tracks are muted, so I'm not going to get any bounce back, any slap back echo, anything like that. And I've labeled these so that once they come in, I know what I'm dealing with. What I can do now is we can click the record button. It's not going to start the session, okay? But you notice now this is flashing red. So everything is in this flashing red mode, which means we are now ready to go. If I take my wireless keyboard over to the drum set, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get ready to go. And when I'm ready, all I have to do is either click the play button, all right? Or what's even easier is just hit the space bar. The space bar is a toggle between play and stop. Very cool when you're recording your own instruments. It makes it a lot easier, especially when you're dealing with a drum set. So with this setup exactly like this, I'm going to go over to my kit. I'm going to record some drum tracks just so I get something in the system that we can start messing with and we can actually dive in a little deeper. And we're going to look at some plugins. We're going to look at panning. And just how to set up a basic playback mix when I come back. So we'll see you all in just a minute.